I'd like to share an experience I had with the game Team Fortress 2. It was about 9 p.m. on Monday, I think 2 weeks ago, and I had decided to play a multiplayer match on TF2. I signed in to start it up with the automatic server selection for play modes. I felt like playing Capture the Flag, so I selected that option. My computer lagged a bit while I was searching for a server, which isn't abnormal for me, as my laptop is fairly distant from my router. But eventually I found it one. Eventually I found one. I've only been playing TF2 since a little after it became free, so I don't have to have a big server history nor experience with server mods or servers in general. But something seemed rather odd about this particular server. Once I gained access to the server, and the loading screen came up with the bar on the right and the bottom right. As the bar got about to 70%, it jittered backwards and paused. It started going back and forth between 45 and 60. Then the game froze after a few moments. And then I decided to force quit the game. I went back. I went to get something to eat when I came back to the game. Went back to the game, started up, and decided to play from my server history. I noticed a new server added to the list, TF2 STF Play Dead 905 or something along that line. After the events I'm about to explain, the server disappeared. After the events I'm about to explain, the server disappeared from the list, so I'm going on playing memory here. I tried the server similar to before. The load bar jittered a bit, however, it managed to complete this time. Usually when you enter a custom server, there will be some sort of splash page to welcome you to the server and advertise their site or briefly explain the rules. In case of the server, the entire splash page was black. There was nothing on it. I started to think something was wrong with my graphics card with all the strange things that was happening, but I decided to continue on. The game loaded. I selected the Pyro as my class, and I entered 2-4. Pyro sucks. It's all about the scout and spy, and the sniper and medic. For those of you who have never played Team Fortress 2, here's a brief explanation. It's a team-based online multiplayer FPS game. In this particular Capture the Flag mode, map 2-4, you have two fairly large mills separated by a little lagoon and a bridge and an underground network of pipes that you can enter. The objective 2 is to obviously capture the opponent's flag and return to your base. For the servers that were 2 teams of 6 upon joining, both teams became full. The game was already mid-progress, but everything was working normally. Our team, Blue, has already scored 1 point. We needed 2 more points to win the game. My team had 0 points. This particular game didn't have a time limit. We seemed to be going back and forth for about 14 minutes with little to no progress. Occasionally, members from our opposing team would type angry messages to the opposing team, accusing them of being cheap and by having 4 engineers in their flag with turrets, making it almost impossible to get their flag, making the game seem endless. Up until now, things have been relatively normal until I started noticing that for about 5 minutes going around the level, I've not seen a single one of my team members, nor any of the other players from the opposing team. People were still talking, however. It kind of took a while for it to sink in that I haven't seen anyone at all for 5 minutes. I thought it had to be some sort of lag problem, so I asked the players if they were having the same issue, and the general response was nope. but one of the other players said they haven't seen me for a bit either. About 6 more minutes passed until I started to grow pretty bored. I decided to make one more round throughout the level before I would find another server. I left for our fort, fell into the lagoon in the middle. I proceeded to enter Red's team's pipe network. After the little room underground, After the little room underground in the middle of the tunnels, there was a pretty long pipe that leads to a staircase upon going up at the base at the end. I noticed the enemy scout was standing there, but he wasn't moving. He was just standing there with his bat out staring at me. A strange form of relief swept over me that the game started to work again. And I charged at him, began to shoot him with my flare. The shots went right through him. When I approached him, he disappeared completely. Really bad lag, I thought to myself. I ascended into the staircase. As I entered the base, a strange static sound started to replace my other game sounds. The other game sounds. I made my way throughout their base, and as I got closer to the flag room, the static got louder and louder until I couldn't hear anything else in the game at all. This is when things started to get really weird. If I asked if anyone else heard the static and I didn't receive any reply. Notice that it worked since I saw the enemy scout in the pipe tunnel. I managed to get out of the room adjacent to the flag room, with 2 halls going into it. I could hear some sort of murmuring behind the static. As I went down to the halls and turned the corner, I noticed that there was no flag room. It was plain black, like the halls leading into the game's void, where all the textures and lighting were reduced to 100% black. I shot a couple of times, and my bullets landed as if there were walls there. So I entered the room anyways. I saw the flag and picked it up, and when I turned around to leave, there was no halls. Everything was black. The UI was still up on the screen. It said that I had that flag, but there was nothing to the level. All traces of the level disappeared. I tried again to get an answer, but after explaining my problem, no response. I stood there in my room, or lack of a room, for about 3 minutes, until suddenly the game froze and the game ended, but the message didn't say anyone won or lost. The announcer's voice was all distorted. The scoreboard was broken. The screen quickly came up and it said downloading playdead 0010090 or something along that line. It took about 17 minutes to download. It was a really big file. When it finished, the black server screen came up again. I went through the screens and selected the spy. The level loaded to something completely indescribable. I tried to save a screenshot, but every picture I tried to get said error, and the print screen didn't work. The level looked rather black and white and very glitchy. The textures on the walls were kind of like an 8-bit blocks, but really distorted. Almost like playing a 3D version of a static snow screen on TV. I went through the level. I went through the level. Oh my gosh. I went through the level and asked everyone, what is this map? There was no response again. I checked the player list in the other than my name, everyone else was listed as I am dead 1, I am dead 2, I am dead 3, etc. I never encountered anything like this before, before, other than some prank games people made for fun when hacks along the lines of the Majora's Mask one. But this is an online game with what it thought secure servers. I decided to give it a few more minutes and explore the level, which was a really large maze of very oddly shaped tunnels. Also, there's no sound effects whatsoever. Nothing I did caused a sound. I eventually came to a really long tunnel with what I imagined was a middle of the level. The tunnels had darkness at the end, and it seemed almost endless. As I was walking for at least a minute in one direction, there was no change in map, so I decided to turn around and go back, thinking that the map is glitched. And the moment I turned my camera around, I saw the enemy scout I saw earlier, except something was wrong with it. His eyes were black, his left arm was rather deformed and bent in impossible directions, and his legs reminded me of a crab. I almost I almost jumped out of my seat. I almost jumped the jumped out of my seat at the sight and typed WTF is going on. I hurriedly in the chat log. I typed WTF is going on hurriedly in the chat log, but there was no response. I stood there and stared down the strange scout for several moments, and the other players started texting, but all that appeared was garbage text. The scout quickly approached me. Then, in a sudden, irregular fashion, I heard a very loud burst of static, and all of a sudden, it kicked me out of the server. I went to check. I went to check the server. It was gone from my history. Naturally, I immediately shut off the game. I haven't played it since then. I was thinking it was some sort of prank, but it was pretty creepy. And game hacks usually don't creep me out. Update, July 13th, 2011. After posting this, I decided to play the game again. I went into my server history to find that the King of the Hill map, but I noticed that TF CTF Play Dead 905 was back. This time it had 0 out of 16 players. I went ugh, I went into the server, and unlike before, it loaded normally without any issues. It was 2-4 when I entered before, but there was no other players in the server. Nothing seemed Nothing seemed really out of the place as I walked around the map for a while. Finding nothing, the only thing I noticed was strange that I would hear is a sound effects glitch out of every now and then. When selecting a character, there was a static noise that kept repeating. And when I went to the tunnel area, I thought I heard footsteps. I shut I shut the game down for a few minutes. I shut the game down a few minutes later, and I will try it again another time. Maybe I'll be able to get some footage. This pasta is poop.